Have you ever felt like you were about to be swept away by a tidal wave of debt? Have you found yourself in a raging sea of financial trouble? If not, get ready for a story that will make you thankful for not being in the shoes of Mr. John Darwin, the man who not only drowned in the waves of his debts, but decided to do it in a spectacularly peculiar way by faking his own death. Without further ado, let's get into this canoe of mystery with all of you. The rippling case of John and Ann Darwin. From love to crime, the man who faked his own death to defraud the insurance company. In the annals of mystery and chaos, it's the epic of Professor John Darwin, a being of numbers and equations, who one day decided to make a free interpretation of the concept of disappearance. The year was 2002, a time when calculators did not yet have digital applications, and the world did not yet know how to use hashtags. In quiet Derwentsside in Durham, England, John, the everyday scientist, took an unexpected turn. In the lush month of March, a month when even the flowers don't know where they are, our professor decided to fly off the radar. Mounted on his faithful sea steed, a gleaming red kayak, he paddled towards immortality, or at least towards an enigma worthy of Sherlock Holmes. Amidst the serene horizon of Tees Bay, Howie Roosin, the sea voyeur, becomes an unwitting witness to this unprecedented feat. What did our hero do? Did he plunge into the marine adventure to investigate whether fish also solved equations? Perhaps he was abducted by a secret tribe of mathematical albatrosses. No, friends, he just vanished. John's wife, Ann Darwin, took on a role in this suspenseful plot like a true acting pro. Let's hear it for her, the dramatic vanishing lady. Totally into her role, she called law enforcement to report her beloved John missing. "Oh, my sweet missing husband," she would have exclaimed with a handkerchief in her hand, perhaps accompanied by violins playing in the background. Without a doubt, the search was epic. Floating oars, orphaned kayak. Where would he be, John? The touch of comedy came when they found the kayak stripped of its captain. John had achieved the unthinkable, disappearing into a perfectly sunny environment. With no conspiratorial clouds or dramatic storms lurking, his vanishing act was worthy of the greatest illusionists. The question still echoed. Where was John? In a parallel dimension? On a secret island for scientists in search of adventure? No, friends, just debts. I also tell you, even the art of disappearing has its price. In a play worthy of a financial thriller, the death certificate became the golden ticket to the Darwin family coffers. And so, amid lost oars and forgotten equations, Professor John Darwin passed into history. No doubt a so-long world that turned out to be a hello insurance policy. Oh, John, the Houdini of finance. And while the police were looking for him, Takan, the debts were paid. In the duel between numbers and kayak, it looks like the numbers won. Our story goes back to the dawn of the new millennium, when John left behind his role as a science teacher to embark on an exciting career as a prison officer at HM Prison Home House, the man who swapped the blackboard for the bars. And no, we're not talking about a comedy club. If that wasn't enough, that was not all. Along with his tireless wife, Ann, whose job as a medical receptionist gave her access to all sorts of medical secrets, or maybe just a lot of waiting room magazines, they decided to dive into the business world. They ran an accommodation rental business. Yes, accommodation. Specifically, they had a portfolio of 12 properties, as if collecting houses was the new extreme sport. Brace yourselves, because the tsunami of debt threatened to wash away everything in its path. They bought houses here, houses there, until their card balance looked like an international phone number. And in a twist worthy of a comedy sketch, John had an epiphany. Eureka! I'm going to fake my own death to collect on the insurance. Yes, friends, because when life throws debt at you, you respond with making a show of escapism. In an interview, his wife Ann described how John proposed the great idea of faking his own death. Ann begged, screamed, and maybe even offered a free math class in exchange for him to drop the idea. But no, John was determined to be the Houdini of finance, and so, as if it were an absurd comedy, John became the ghost of the adjacent house. For years, he led a clandestine life, making magical disappearances only to reappear in his secret lair, until one day a confused tenant confronted him. "Hey, "Weren't you dead?" And John, in his trademark comedian in distress style, replied, "Don't tell anyone, it's a secret." Of course, with such an uproar, the couple decided to take drastic measures. What better than to hide abroad under a new identity, as if they were escaping from an army of angry mathematicians. And so, dear listeners, this chapter of The Truth Behind John Darwin concludes. A man who went from equations to evasions, proving that debt can lead you to the most absurd life, and that in the real world, sometimes fiction exceeds all expectations. Stay tuned, because here comes the good part. John, like a chameleon changing color, became Carl Fenwick, a name that sounds like the weird neighbor who never takes out the trash. He placed his hideout a stone's throw from his original house, as if the distance between debt and solvency were measured in goose steps. And if you thought this couldn't get any more interesting, hold on tight, because enter Kelly Steele, an American woman who had no idea she was playing identity flirtation with the Houdini of finance himself. But there's more. While John was bringing his alter ego Carl to life, he also became a fan of disappearance and crime shows on TV. Of course, friends, what better way to learn how to become an identity ninja than by watching others do it? One marathon series, and you've got your very own identity makeover kit. So, surprise, surprise, our protagonist headed to the library like an industrious student. He dove into the death files and voila, John Jones emerges, the baby who never knew he would be the hero in this comedy of financial entanglements. John printed out Jones's birth certificate, who had died at just 5 months old, took out fake IDs and even a passport. Let's not forget that he did all this with the friendly help of the librarian, who probably wondered if he was being complicit in an episode of Change Your Identity in 3 Easy Steps. And so, my friends Darwin and his wife embarked on a journey into the unknown, armed with fake passports and an incredible amount of financial creativity. Would they end up as fugitives looking for an escape business in a tax haven? Or would they simply open an online course on how to fake your own disappearance without losing style? Stay tuned, because this comedy of entanglements is only gaining momentum. Really? It all started with an idea that sounded as crazy as surfing at the North Pole, moving to Panama. But these two weren't just talkers, they were action takers. In July 2006, they flew down to Earth with one of the most famous merchant channels on Earth, and surprise, they had their picture taken with a real estate agent. 2007 was a year of travel and excitement. Newspapers magically appeared between the Darwin's house and John's hideaway. It was as if the newspaper was saying, "Don't hide, John, we're watching you." However, our intrepid couple did not stop. In March, back in Panama, they founded Jaguar Properties, because if you're going to move, you need to have a company with a fierce-sounding name ready to conquer the real estate world. Wait, did you really think they were going to stay there? They sold a house in their son Mark's name and wham! They transferred the money straight to Panama, as if they were playing global Monopoly. And the Queen of Juggling went back to the UK to sell her house, while John stayed planted in Panama like a modern-day explorer. But what is a hassle-free move? In their quest for perfection, they made a blunder. The photo with the realtor. Imagine, they thought they could go unnoticed in a world full of selfies and cameras everywhere. That photo was like John's signature in the book, How to Be Invisible in the 21st Century. And so, my friends, in this exciting John and Ann show, we see them travel back and forth like experts in international moving games. Would they manage to build their hotel and canoe trips in Panama? Or would the indiscreet photo become their kryptonite? Stay tuned, because this dynamic duo has not said their last word. After Panama's visa laws took a soap opera-worthy turn, Darwin was left in a bind. It turns out that in order to get those shiny Panamanian investment visas, identities had to pass through the scrutiny of the UK police. And of course, that got our friend Houdini sweating in English thicker than London fog. His alias John Jones sounded faker than a £3 bill in a pub. In a move that even Shakespeare would applaud, Darwin decided to make his grand return to the UK under his own name, but with an added layer of drama. drama. Yes, he made up a fake amnesia as if it were a lunchtime soap opera, and he surely visualized himself walking the corridors of London's West End Central Police Station, disoriented and confused, just as a hero caught up in a series of crimes would. On December 1st, 2007, Darwin burst into the police station with the most hackneyed line in film noir. "I think I'm a missing man." Seems like all the crime movie cliches came together in one day to greet him big time. And of course his wife Anne, who had already packed her bags to move to Panama, screamed her head off, or rather, her tea, seeing her beloved husband return as if nothing had happened. However, the British police were not for fairy tales. While Anne played the grieving widow, the police spotted more red signals than a London traffic light at rush hour. Anne took exotic vacations, planned a transatlantic move, and even moved more money than an antiques dealer. And if that wasn't enough to keep the police suspicious, one of Anne's colleagues decided to lift the curtain on her life insurance claim and her sudden passion for Panama. So, mystery and plot twist lovers, get ready for the next installment in your theaters, The Great West End Deception. This story has no price tag, but it does have life insurance and a fake amnesia special offer. Anne Darwin revealed in an interview with the Daily Mail that the final stage of her plan was to return as John Darwin to England, claiming that she had been suffering from amnesia for the past 5 years. Anne claimed to have had the following dialogue with her husband. "I told him he was mad, but as usual, he did not listen." And like a good screwball comedy, Anne told her husband that he was out of his mind, but good old John simply dove headlong into the abyss of his own tale. At this point, the plot took a somersault when an unexpected photo came into the picture. It turns out that on the website of Move to Panama, that company that promised life in Panama without complications, there was a photo of John and Anne Darwin, with faces more radiant than the full moon, posing as if they were the protagonists of a real estate action movie. But here's the kicker. That photo held more secrets than a Pandora's box in a mysterious trunk. Anonymously, the picture reached the police and the Daily Mirror, as if someone had thrown a hook full of intrigue and mystery. The story behind it is like a good soap opera. A curious woman, after reading about the unexpected return of John Darwin, decided to do a digital magic trick, a simple Google search with the magic words John, Anne, and Panama, and wham, the treasure hunt was on. The photo had a little hidden gem, a timestamp in the bottom corner that read July 4th, 2006, like a coded message in a bottle. That date had more stories to tell than you could ever imagine. Curiosity triggered a series of events that would be worthy of a Scooby-Doo episode. And so, like a modern-day Sherlock, the Daily Mirror caught the scent of mystery and made it their front page with the ultra-dramatic headline, "Canoe's this in Panama?" Not only were they touching on the mystery, but they were opening the door to the entire country. From a simple moving website to the global spotlight, who knew the flying hats would be just the beginning of this crazy story? From here comes the climax of this journey of madness and deceit. The legal plot unraveled like a TV drama, with John Darwin in the dock, facing charges of deception for his life insurance money caper and his rampant pursuit of a pretend passport. But wait, the show is not over yet. Anne Darwin also entered the scene and, as theatrically as a Hollywood actress, was arrested at Manchester Airport itself on charges of fraud. You could almost feel the suspense in the air. The drama moved to Hartlepool Crown Court, where Anne faced the fraud charges like a real movie star. 2 charges worth £250,000 and £137,000. The plot thickened, and of course it couldn't be a play without her co-star, John Darwin, facing the same charges and sharing the arrest scene until the fateful December 14th. However, there is no rest for the protagonists of this legal comedy. In a rapid succession of hearings, the Darwins made their appearance again on December 14th, facing a new round of judicial scrutiny that would carry them into January of the following year. Additional charges rained down on them like sizzling jokes from a comic monologue, and uncertainty about their fate had them on tenterhooks, facing the possibility of being unwitting protagonists in a chapter in the Crown Court. But surprise! The plot took an even more unexpected turn in March when John dropped the bombshell. He confessed to 7 counts of obtaining money under false pretenses and a passport offense. Anne, for her part, denied her involvement in the grand farce. Finally, The verdict came down like a slab on July 23, 2008, with the sentence handed down. 6 years and 3 months for John, and 6 years and 6 months for Anne. The laughter must have frozen at that moment. However, the legal vicissitudes did not end there. The promise to confiscate the proceeds of the fraud persisted as a recurring joke in this surreal plot. John was paroled in January 2011, with Anne following in his footsteps in March. And in classic epilogue style, John tried to downplay the gravity of it all with the famous line, "I took money from an insurance company, but I didn't kill anyone." You could almost imagine him shrugging his shoulders. The story culminated in the Crown Prosecution Service's persistent fight to recover the ill-gotten funds. By February 2012, most of the money had been recovered. After going through more twists and turns than an emotional roller coaster, Anne and John found themselves in a relationship more fragile than a house of cards on a windy day. Oh yeah, detention and legal drama can do wonders to improve spousal communication. But heck, looks like it's all sold out and the plot thickens even more. Anne, in a twist worthy of a melodrama, came out with her own accusations. According to Anne, John tortured her psychologically on more occasions than she can count. Oh, the dark secrets of a seemingly perfect marriage. Anne did not keep quiet and dropped the bombshell during an interview with The Guardian in 2016. John had always been a controlling influence in my life, and even when he wasn't there, I had his voice in my head. I didn't realize how much John manipulated me until I was in prison. I had to see a psychologist to finally help me see things in a different light. Of course, sure enough, the love plot between these two lovebirds came to an end in a divine divorce. Anne, sharp as a novel detective, discovered that John was writing to another woman during his time in prison. Oh, John, your uncontrollable desires not only got you into legal trouble, but also wrecked your marriage. I bet you didn't see it coming while paddling your kayak. The climax came when Darwin, unpublished protagonist of this epic story, changed his scenery and moved to the Philippines, where he seems to have adopted a lifestyle more heroic than Iron Man. Yeah, Iron Darwin. Disappearances, debt, and kayaks are his armor, and as if following a soap opera script, he married a woman 23 years his junior. Nothing like a new young wife to start a new chapter after having lived more voyages than a sailboat in a storm. Darwin's story is so audacious that writers and TV producers were eager to sink their teeth into it and bring it to the screen. Who needs fiction when you have a plot as crazy as this in real life? In 2010, the BBC hit the nail on the head by releasing the documentary Canoe Man, because honestly, what could be more dramatic than a man who faked his own death and then reappeared as if nothing had happened? The story has also inspired several authors to take up their pens and write about Anne and John's exploits. How about Adrian Geer's book titled Return from the Dead, a title that says so much more than a picture of John paddling his kayak? And attention soap opera fans, do not be left behind. The plot of the story also seeped into the soap opera world. Joey McIntyre's character in ITV's Coronation Street was also inspired by Darwin's antics. Here You Are, Friends, a story so incredible that it became the muse for writers, directors, and actors alike. Who would have thought that a man could paddle his way to fame on the back of a kayak and life insurance? John Darwin truly taught us that when it comes to paddling against the current, there are no boundaries or calm waters to stop him. But now, let me ask you, what do you think of this incredible story of cunning and misadventures? Can you think of any other creative ways to solve financial problems? At this point, you still don't know this story of another insurance hunter? I wouldn't miss it.